we know how Pochettino wants to play. He needs certain players. You can't just bring to him, let's say hypothetically, a Ronaldo, and he won't press relentlessly from the front or have the ball played into feet and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you agree with what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
So what I'd like to ask you is, who would you like to see coming in on an interim basis, and who would you like to see taking charge of the club, and what changes do you feel should be made if you guys are to go back to the upper echelons that we know you are capable of becoming?
Okay, so as I told you, like this season is kind of a write-off for me. As in, I don't see how we can salvage it unless we get a really good manager and have a run in the Champions League. But like honestly, at an ideal level, I would really like to see Eric Ten Hag manage Man United as a permanent manager, not an interim. I wouldn't want an interim because the thing with our team, our board, like the people upstairs, the moment you win 5 games, they give you a 3-year contract. And I know that he's a good enough manager to win, especially with the run we have, I think, from mid-December, when I think after Palace, our games get really good. So I think if you get an interim and he has the bounce and he wins maybe 5 or 6 games in a row, he'll be given a contract where he's not good enough to actually be a permanent manager of Man United. So ideally, I think I would like Ten Hag or Poch to come in, but obviously that's very unlikely. So I would rather honestly continue with Carrick until the end of the season, because the thing with Carrick is his coaching but doesn't allow him to take a permanent manager position. So there, it will be out of their hands and they'll be unable to promote him permanently, no matter how well he does. So I think I would just stick with him until the end of the season, and then we get one of the two at the end.
I think it's a situation where Manchester United is actually a floated company on the New York Stock Exchange, and it's a situation where if the club isn't performing on the pitch, it means that generally the image of the club isn't right, and that's why people wouldn't want to buy shares or invest into the company. And to them, if it's not working, they have no choice but to sack the manager. So for them, it's a situation where as long as the club is getting top 4 consistently and getting European football, it doesn't really matter if they challenge for the league or not. And that's the problem I have with the Glazers. The same thing I have with the Kroenkes. And again, that's why I was asking you, do you trust this board to actually make the right decision with regards to the manager? Because they clearly wouldn't want a manager who wouldn't be afraid, to face them head on if they don't agree on stuff. And that's probably why they decided not to go with Conte, because they know Conte is a volatile figure who can easily, fall out with the board, just like Jose Mourinho, They prefer yes men for the job. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, and probably that's why they went with Ole, because Ole is just a puppet. You know what I'm saying? Ole is, how do I put it? Ole is a nice guy. By nature he's a nice guy. Even if you look at him, he's a nice guy. Like he's a wonderful human being. He's a genuinely good human being, but a bad manager. You know what I'm saying? There is a big difference between both. He's a good man and a nice guy, but a bad manager, a terrible manager. Like you were saying, the situation with his management of certain players and stuff. The fact that he was willing to be a puppet, that the Glazers and Ed Woodward could use, to suit their own narratives, So, in my opinion, I feel what you first need to do is bring in a director of football to the club, someone who is a footballing man, like let's say David Gill back in the day or Peter Kenyon back in the day, and by whatever means necessary, don't let Ed Woodward take all the shots at that club again, because I really feel that is the biggest underlying issue with that club. Because even if you bring a Ten Hag, or you bring in a Zidane, or you bring in a Pochettino, whoever you want to bring in, if you're not going to back him by giving him what he wants and players who specifically suit his philosophy, you're wasting their time. You know what I'm saying? And back to the point you are making about wanting Ten Hag, I think I agree with you 100%, because Ten Hag is the type of manager who wants to win now, but he clearly has a philosophy, a vision, let's say, where, like, you see what Ajax do, where the youth teams play in as much the same way as the senior team, so that the pathway to the first team is streamlined, because the philosophy that is driving them as a club means it's easier to integrate players from the youth setup into the starting lineup and they spend shrewdly. But as long as players are buying into his philosophy and you're winning stuff, there is a solid foundation to keep, let's say, his club Ajax competitive, and that's the model Barcelona used to have under Cruyff, and then Pep Guardiola revived it much later. You get what I'm saying? So, or even Pochettino, who, in my opinion, I think Pochettino should have taken the Man United job 3 years ago, if I'm being honest with you, because he's a manager who can make the most out of specific players as long as they buy into their system, and has a clear way of playing. If you want to win now, if you want short-term success, go for someone like Zidane, because Zidane is the perfect manager at managing egos, because he has that aura given he was a big player and he's proven it, and he focuses on what I call he's subtle from the point of view of he focuses on the strengths of players and then uses their varying strengths to set up a system that brings you results. And the Manchester United dressing room right now is so full of egos. Cristiano Ronaldo is an ego, Pogba is an ego, is a massive ego, Bruno is obviously a massive ego, a lot of people, Varanes, how do I say it, the people like maybe even Sancho, maybe even Rashford, all these are massive egos, and that's where I feel like he'd do a job. But if you want short-term success, I actually agree with you when you say you should go for Ten Hag. But